like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we are meeting tonight and pay my respects to owners past and those that may be present. I'd also like to acknowledge that today is the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Intersexism and Transphobia. And part of my work here tonight is to put this discussion into the broader context. And I think it's important to first look at the sexual assault and violence prevalence data in Australia. And this is just some fast facts. 1 in Australian women have experienced sexual violence and 1 in 20 men. 1 in 6 Australian women had experienced physical or sexual violence from a current or former partner. 1 in 8 people experience abuse, sexual or physical, before the age of 18. 50% of women experience sexual harassment and 25% of men. 15% of women had been sexually assaulted by a person they knew since the age of 15. 1 sexual assault is reported every hour in Australia. Family violence is the #1 killer of women aged between 15 and 44 years in Australia. And 1 woman is killed every week by her partner or ex-partner. Sexual violence is a large part of reported family violence and is often the last part that is disclosed. Nearly 19,000 women and 4,000 men experienced sexual assault in 2016, and that data is from the Australian Bureau of Statistics and the Personal Safety Survey. It's also really important to note that sexual assault has had the largest increase over the last 5 years of recorded crimes against the person, eclipsing robbery, physical assault, murder and other crimes. The rate of sexual violence perpetrated in Australia has increased by 22% in the last 5 years. So, a bit about Loddon Campaspe Centre Against Sexual Assault. We began from the Rape Crisis Centre in 1974, which was formed by women who were all volunteers who sought to end sexual violence and support women that experienced it. In 1983, Bendigo CASA was the first rural and regional CASA opened, and it began with 2 staff and volunteer counsellors. We now employ 25 staff. We are a partner in the Bendigo Multidisciplinary Centre and are co-located with the Victorian Police Sexual Offences and Child Abuse Investigation Team, Child Protection and Community Health. The MDC, the Multidisciplinary Centre, is a purpose-built facility with therapeutic counselling rooms, interview rooms and a forensic suite, which is currently used for adults that have experienced recent sexual assault. There are currently 6 MDCs across the state, and they're an overwhelming, fantastic approach to responding to people who've experienced sexual assault, and everyone is there that anyone would need to talk to at the right time. We provide counselling, support and advocacy for women, children and men. We also offer an after-hours crisis response to people that have experienced recent sexual assault. Last year, across our services and programs, we saw 1,000 clients. 3/4 of our clients are female and 1/4 are male. In response to the data that I've just talked about, I think as a community in Australia and locally, and our policymakers have responded with the media to address violence against women. It basically became too hard to ignore. The Family Violence Royal Commission, the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Abuse, and Me Too have all contributed to the public being informed and having a platform to be heard both formally and informally. As John mentioned, the Me Too movement was founded in 2006, went viral in 2016, and I have slightly different data to John because I believe that I think 18 million women have declared their experience using the Me Too hashtag on social media platforms. From our experience at CASA, we saw an increase in inquiries and referrals when Harvey Weinstein news broke, followed by Don Burke, Craig McLachlan and Bill Cosby. Men with power and high profiles get the media attention, and there were headlines across all media formats in a sustained way. Thank you, Hollywood and the Australian media. It actually meant that we are seeing an increase in women who feel that they can actually ring and talk about something that may have happened to them. What we're also seeing is a backlash towards Me Too, and in that it is trial by media of the alleged perpetrators that women are tagging and naming in the media. I do not subscribe to this view. But, and there is always but, what does Me Too mean for us as a community? Why couldn't all these women tell their story when it happened and seek support or justice? For years, when a woman disclosed or reported assault, the reaction has been one of victim blaming, both blatant and subtle. What was she doing there? What was she wearing? What did she expect? Things got a bit out of hand. Why did she take so long to tell anyone and come forward? These responses also occur within the justice system, particularly during cross-examination, where the presumption of innocence and to create reasonable doubt, the woman is diminished and dissected. She is of lesser character and therefore either caused or deserved the assault. This is evidenced by the Saxon-Mullins case and the withdrawal of charges in the gang rape case in Geelong. These women experience the worst of our justice system and are both significantly impacted in a negative way. Let's not forget that in sentencing, the perpetrator's background or future prospects are used to reduce the consequences of their crime. He's a good bloke and full of promise. This contributes to why sexual assault and violence is so underreported. We know that a very small percentage of sexual assault cases are reported and an even smaller number go to trial. And of these, a smaller number result in conviction. It is gruelling, particularly for the woman. So what does this mean? How can we change things at an individual and community level? We have people in influential roles, politicians, magistrates, judges, commentators, that do not understand that sexual assault and violence is an act of power and entitlement. It is not a split decision to offend. It is underpinned by a belief that I am more powerful than you and I will take what I want. To impact on long-held beliefs and the system that support them, we need to challenge the status quo of inequality and address the gendered drivers of sexual violence. These include condoning of violence against women, men's control of decision-making and limits to women's independence in public and private life, rigid gender roles and stereotype constructions of masculinity and femininity, and male peer relations that emphasise aggression and disrespect towards women. And just listen to commercial radio to see that enacted every morning, afternoon and night. These issues around women, sexual violence and safety have existed for centuries. The viral Me Too movement has existed as we know it for 18 months. It has called out a few men that held powerful positions and have used this power to exploit those around them, particularly women. This is just the tip of the iceberg, as the data suggests. We need to ignore the Me Too backlash. We need to keep focusing on the main prize of gender equality, where women, children and men all live free from sexual violence. Thanks.